Oh, I was a little off there. Sorry, guys. Didn't have my earphones in. Good morning. Welcome to Coffee and Darts, or welcome back to Coffee and Darts because it is a new year. This is the first episode of 2021. Technically, I'm calling it Season 2, Episode 1, but it is Episode 68. And on Coffee and Darts, I interview pro dart players, manufacturers, other YouTubers and streamers, along with our subscribers. So if you guys are ready for some Coffee and Darts this morning, why don't you give me a big ton 80 right there in the comments. And don't forget, you can catch Coffee and Darts every Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope. We also are available in podcast if you didn't know that. So if you want to catch the show without having to look at this face and just hear it while you're driving or doing something else, it is available in podcast at pretty much any podcast available streaming platform like iTunes and others out there. So you can always catch the episodes and just listen to me and not have to see me. So again, available in podcasts. And let me know if you guys are checking this out on Facebook or YouTube. And don't forget to do the like and the heart there. Let me know that you're getting some love from this. All right, let's take a moment to thank our sponsors that help make this show available. I was going to say available, make it happen. And of course, that would be Shot Darts, great manufacturer of the barrels of darts products, and just a big fan personally of Shot Darts, and happy that they are supporting this show, as well as Magicwear. Normally I'd have a jersey on with the Magicwear stuff, and I've got plenty of them laying around, but I had to wear this particular shirt this morning because it is, of course, of the world champion and number one in the world, and we're going to get in and talk about that. Also want to thank Condor Flights and Shafts, or Trinidad/Condor, for coming on this past year with their sponsorship of the show. And they're just cool product. Their Axe system, which I currently am playing and have been able to turn on to a number of other players out there, but great system there. It's an all-in-one flight and shaft system, and the Axe is just smashing it out there. If you've seen a number of the pro players are out there are using that particular system, Devin Peterson, Kim Hybricks, to name a couple. All right, we need to get into the actual show today, and I need to pull this little sticky thing off here. Set that aside. I want to talk about 2020. We're going to get into a little bit of 2020. We're going to get into 2021. And let me say good morning there to Scott Carter and to Scottish Lad and to Scott Carter, 180. I'll have that. Thanks. Anthony Eugenia. Hey, sir. Hopefully you're doing well. And sorry I missed the meeting last night, but I do want to spend some time talking about a little bit about 2020. We're just going to do a real quick recap on that. We'll talk about what's coming up in 2021. And Scottish Lad says he broke a set of axes. You know what? It's funny. I know I'm getting off topic here. I haven't broken a set. Dylan has, but I personally haven't broken a set of axes since the origination of the axe and when they reformulated it. I haven't had any issues. Sorry that you broke a set of them. Dylan has broken a number of sets, but he will throw crazy. Like he'll stand 20 feet away and try throwing with a hard background, and it's funny. And then he comes to me and he's like, "Oh, I broke it." And I'm like, "What do you want me to do about it?" But anyway, let's get into talking a little bit about darts. We're going to talk some of what's coming up for this year. We're going to talk Q School for a second as well. And I want to talk to you guys about Championship Darts Circuit, or the CDC, which I really wish we could change the name of. What they've got going on, and the opportunity for those that are here that are American or North Cadians, the opportunity that's going to be coming up this year for you so that you can have an opportunity to reach the world champions and maybe become world champion yourself. It's available. It's an opportunity. It's there. And one of the ways as a North American to do that is through the Championship Dart Circuit. Currently, there is no other way, really, outside of going and getting your tour card with the PDC or being lucky enough to win a couple of particular tournaments out there that anybody can enter, but we'll see how those play out this year. All right, let's do a quick recap of the PDC of this last year. I just wanted to, I found this calendar and I can't find it now, of course. There we go, tournaments. If you click on that, there's this thing called a calendar. And it was interesting as I was looking at this particular calendar. And of course, 2021 is up, and we're going to talk briefly about that. But I went back and looked at 2020, and everything started off pretty much normal. You know, you had your Q School, which technically should be happening in a week or so. But my understanding, it's been pushed off till February for 2021. It's still showing on the calendar for mid this month. But everything I've seen and heard is that it's going to be pushed off till February. Whether that's adjusted or changed in the last day or two, I don't know. If you do know, please drop it in the comments and let me know. But so last year we started off pretty normal, right? You know, January we had the normal stuff. We had Peter Wright winning, becoming the world champion. And then we started off with some basic tournaments. We had our qualifying schools. We had our unicorn challenge tours. You know, that stuff started off, and we had the Ladybroke Masters, which basically, because the BDO didn't exist anymore type of thing. And then February, things going along. In March, things got a little bit crazy come March due to the COVID situation. And then we get into April, May, and then it was like July. They finally kind of figured out, let's do the summer series. We'll stick everybody in a hotel that's playing, and they're basically quarantined, but the only activity they can do is darts. And that's kind of what we saw with Summer Series, which was kind of cool. You know, it was basically 5 days of just darts. It was like 2 tournaments a day, and it was just crazy darts. It was kind of fun for a fan to watch a lot of that. I'm sure for players, it was a little bit nuts and a little stressful, because you were literally quarantining yourself away from everything that you knew. You weren't going home. You were stuck with everybody else there at the hotel. And if there are players that you don't like, you're pretty much stuck with them. Then we got the World Match Play, which was cool. Kind of the same situation. You know, the World Match Play is a long tournament in itself. So those that were playing in it were quarantined in their hotel in the particular arena that they were playing in. And then we got back in August. There seemed to be a little bit of light, and we kind of had the Unibet Premier League. We kind of finished that up, and typically we should have had a bunch of that throughout this whole time, and they kind of just jammed it all through August. That was basically August. It was, I guess, it was the end of August that happened. We got the Premier League done, and that was, again, everybody quarantined in a particular arena and playing there. And I guess that led into September, if I remember correctly. And then we got the Autumn Series and so forth. So that was kind of the year of 2020. Now, will 2021 be the same? I don't think the plan is for that in any way, at least as it sits. Currently on the calendar, Q School is still showing. I don't know that Q School is going to happen in January. I don't think we really get anything until February. I think we get basically a month off from the darts from a PDC standpoint, which is great, because we got to get Gerwyn all put together. We got to deal with that situation and get ready for that. And hopefully some of this stuff will clear up. We could get into the whole COVID thing and how that plays out, but that's not what I talk about. That's not where I go. And I can talk offline about that if anybody cared to hear my opinions about it. But, in February, we get back into the Premier League, which is exciting. And if you guys saw, there's some interesting players playing out in the Premier League. There is a spot technically open currently, and everybody's vying to see who's going to get that spot. I think Matt Edgar should just get it, just because he's another YouTuber, and I'm down with that. And, we get into March, and everything seems to be playing out on this calendar. As I looked, it's pretty much how we expect it for the most part. There are a few tournaments that are missing that we would expect to see, and I think it's just they're waiting to see how this all plays out as to how and where they're going to play some of these tournaments. Now, we do have currently on the schedule the U.S. Darts Masters. Now, this is for all of us here in America and the North Cadians. We have the U.S. Darts Masters still showing, going to be at Madison Square Garden. We'll see in June. And so I'm hoping to get to that particular tournament live. A lot of these other ones I can't because I'm just not flying all the way over there. So we'll see what happens with that. I do want to talk about the Order of Merit at some point here, but let's just say hi to everybody. What's up, Carl? Love darts. It's afternoon, Matt. It's morning for me, guys. Hopefully you guys do have your coffee and, well, your coffee available. Maybe you have your darts laying around. I got darts laying around all over the place. Guys, and if you're just joining the show, I appreciate you guys doing that. I kind of went through a little my new script for the beginning. I'm trying to make some changes for this year, really stepping it up. This is a one-man show with 2 kids and a wonderful wife. Thanks, Love Darts. This is a nice shirt. I'm proud to wear this. Very proud to have that. And with yes, Scottish Lad. We'll get into Roy and his dress. We're going to talk about his tournament coming up and the dress he'll be wearing this Saturday. But this is a one-man show. And so I want part of today's show is to kind of lay out the plan for this year. You guys can help hold me accountable, ask me questions about things, and just know what's coming up from Coffee and Darts and from Atomic Darts and for myself. Hopefully it won't always be a one-man show. Hopefully I'll be able to, some talent will come in and want to help out, because right now that's kind of the situation. In regards to darts reviews, I will continue to do those. And I do have someone that helps me with a little bit on the editing side of that. But outside of that, when it comes to the show, I want to grow this and make it something bigger and better for the darts community. And that's something that's helpful. Good morning, Niels from Niels Darts. So as you noticed, I kind of did a little bit of a script as I opened the show, and that's going to be there. Trying to, again, professionalize what I'm doing. And I'm working on some cool little bumper videos for sponsors and stuff. So you guys will see that as well. But some of the things to look forward to, and then I want to talk, I want to go over the changes in the PDC, because I'm kind of excited about that. Gerwyn Prices is number 1. He won the world championship. He became number 1, and we saw just the angst of what that meant to him during play, because he should have won that 10 darts prior to. But anyway, and Danny Baggish. We're talking about Danny Baggish already. So anyway, sorry, getting a little off there. Gotta have a sip of coffee. Things that to look forward to coming up this year, definitely player interviews. I'm hoping that I'll be able to get some of the guys on, like Danny Baggish, and others that definitely shown themselves, got a little bit more prominence in the darts community. Hoping to have some good interviews throughout the year there. I am working with the guys over at the Championship Darts Circuit. They were kind enough to invite me in to kind of help out this year. Where that's going to go, I'm not 100% sure. As they get back to doing live events, will I be a part of those? I'm not sure. I think that's all still being figured out, those conversations as to how that's going to work, what my role specifically will be. I know right now, if you've watched any of the Championship Darts Circuits, in between matches, they've allowed me to come on and talk with the gentleman, Mark Taggart. We've kind of talked about some of the tournament stuff that's coming on. They've also allowed me to just kind of ramble with everybody there and talk darts. Will that turn into more? I don't know, but I'm hoping to see that grow into something a little bit better, because I just love this community, and the opportunity to help is great. And the Championship Darts Circuit here in North America definitely has the top-notch, some of the top-notch, if not the top-notch players in North America. I know there's some other venue-type things, not venues, but the areas where you can play darts that have some really great darts players. But I think the Championship Darts Circuit is an area, if you wanted to become a world champion, that is the journey for a North American, from someone from America, or North Canada, North Cadian, a North Cadian. Yes, that was a term I coined. And so I've been told I'm supposed to use that from now on. But so keep an eye out on what the Championship Darts Circuit is and what they're doing. They've got some great players, of course. They got the Ginger Ninja, the Ginger Ninja. Jeez, they got Matt Campbell playing up there. They've got Danny Baggish, Daniel Alby. All these great players that we saw over the World Championships came through this circuit. And so I'm excited to be a part of that. Keep an eye out. I know next week we get into playoffs for a tournament that we've been dealing with. And again, you'll get to see my great face if you hang in there and watch the intermission show. So that's some of the stuff that's going on. Other things to just keep in mind that's coming up. Coffee. So this show is called Coffee and Darts, right? Which I've had a lot of people ask me, how does coffee and darts work? Because shouldn't it be in alcohol and darts? Well, at 7 a.m., I stopped drinking the alcohol probably an hour or two ago and have switched to coffee so that I can do my job during the day. And then I'll go back. No, that's not true. But it is a morning show, so coffee just made a lot of sense. And honestly, my big vision dream would be to have this killer coffee shop that had dartboards throughout it where we played darts and tournaments and stuff. And maybe, certain nights a week would have that alcoholic aspect to it because I do like a nice drink here and there. Excuse me, COVID. So I have been asked about that. But with that in mind, this past year, I worked on actually bringing my own coffee to the table. And there is a roaster that is fairly close to me. They're probably about a 30-minute drive from me that I have been working with to roast basically a Coffee and Darts brand of coffee. And we're very close to getting that played out. I thought it was going to happen last year much quicker. Unfortunately, with all the fun stuff that's been going on, some changes had to be made. But we are they're roasting for other stores and coffee companies. So the availability is there. I'm actually trying to create a flavor that is different than some of the other ones. I know that's weird when it comes to coffee, but you can actually add different pieces to the element as far as when you roast them to give them some slight different flavors. So look for that hopefully sooner than later in regards to the Coffee and Darts brand of coffee. The website, which really hasn't had much love at all in the past year, is in the process of getting some love. So look for that to happen a little bit more. There are things like this shirt available, just some fun stuff that I kind of did through the year, but I never really capitalized on it. So that's in the process to try and just, again, bring some nice stuff to the community. So yes, coffee with alcohol in it. That is an idea. Devin, or Dave, sorry, to do that. So, but you can have licensing for that. Coffee is much easier. I'll just say that much than the alcohol. So those are things that are in the mix. I started writing a book last year about darts, kind of just with my perspective on it, more kind of the history of darts with some fun stuff thrown into it. And I stalled out on it, and I've got the juices flowing again back with that. I've got a gentleman who is a writer that's helping me do it because I'm not a writer. I'm a talker. So he's helping me as we do this process, and hopefully that will come together in the first half of the year. I'm also working on trying to put together something that's a social media type piece. I was trying to get some of my friends that do this, like literally teach this type of stuff. I have friends that's what they do. And nobody seems to grasp the concept that the darts community is such a vast community and that this is a needed product. So I may, with the help of a couple people, put together kind of a manual on how to do social media for the darts player. As we know, social media has become, the wave of darts, being able to do this stuff live, play in your garage. And we're seeing a ton of people hit the scene in regards to YouTube and other platforms, doing darts reviews and having their own shows, like the Darts Referee, which I love Jack and I hate Jack. I'm just going to be honest. It's a love-hate relationship for me because the guy hit the scene a little over a year ago and he's already got 20,000 plus subs. I've been doing this for 3+ years and I haven't even hit 3,000 subs. So it was a year ago that I finally hit 1,000 subs. So props to Jack for crushing it. Being a darts referee at the PDC and living where he lives probably helps a lot with that. There is a jealousy, as you can hear in my voice. Dude's crushing it, and I love to see that. I know Matt Edgar was chugging along there, and he has since just kind of blown up at the same time. This COVID thing has helped in that respect. So props to those guys, and props to the other guys that have showed up in the market. The more the merrier, in my opinion. There's a huge pie, and we all just need a little slice of it. So I am excited when I see people like Jack crushing it on these platforms. But there are a lot of people that have questions about the platforms, how to use them, how to go about setting up stuff, what's the right equipment. And there are people out there that teach this stuff, but they don't teach it with the darts community in mind and darts players in mind. Like, what's the best camera to have against my dartboard? We have professional darts players that aren't savvy in this regard because that's not what they do. And so they need the help. And so hopefully I can help bring some of that along with some of the other people I know that do this. And it can be a joint type of thing that we bring to the community to help darts players get better visuals when playing. That'll help with the fights about cheating and, I can't see your board, I can't see this, there's shadowing, stuff like that, along with just helping other YouTubers and streamers to understand what's out there, what products are out there. Like this mic, I'm using a Blue Yeti, and people are like, what's a Blue Yeti? Things like that, things that I've learned by talking with these people and hanging out and going to a bunch of the social media conferences. For me, it's just a love. Like there's the biggest one. It's social media marketing world normally happens in San Diego in a couple of weeks, but because of COVID, it can't happen. And I used to volunteer and go to that and hang out with all these people. And I have friends that live down the street, Owen Video, who moved to Utah without telling me, but he was on. I'm trying to get him to come on the show and talk to you guys about kind of this thing. He lives this. This is his life. And so anyway, those are some of the things that I'm working on. And sorry, I'm reading through the comments right now. And then, Aussie TV. We've chatted a little bit, but love to chat more. As I see your name coming up quite a bit here in the chat. Neil starts so these comments start happening. Neil's is talking about he's getting flattened with his channel, to be honest. And I'll tell you, there's the burnout. There's days where and times when I look at doing this, and I'm just like you notice, I kind of took the last 2 weeks off. I had one day where I had this really nice gentleman, Roy from Bullseyes and Brewskis, come on, and we've got to talk about Roy and his dress here. But burnout does happen, and so like those that are out there, like Scottish Lad and Niels and Love Darts and the guys that are doing this type of thing, you do have to pace yourself. And I want to get into talking about that a little bit this year. Try and be a conduit of help for those that are doing this particular style of, program, whether it's darts review or interviews. And be some help. I have a lot of knowledge in it. I'm not the best at doing the promotional side for me, because when I leave here, like I'm going to leave here, I'm going to drive to San Diego. I'm going to do a home inspection because I'm still doing those to pay my bills. And then I'm going to leave there. I'm going to go to the office and be a real estate agent, which is my, something I jumped into last year, and I'm still building that. And I've got to do a bunch of that and then come home, do the kids. And then next thing I know, I'm playing darts because I have one more match for this league before we go into playoffs. And so that's kind of like what every day is like for me, and doing stuff with Championship Dart Circuit. So I don't, have the bandwidth to do as much marketing as I probably should. Probably could have a much bigger channel, much bigger situation here had I done all that. So those are things to look forward to this year. I do want to jump back into actual darts and stop just chatting about myself. Because there are some other things that I want to talk about that are coming up, some fun, exciting things in my opinion, but I want to talk about this because I'm super pumped on this. Who saw the match this past Sunday? Let me know in the comments. Give me a ton 180, a ton 180. What the hell is that? A ton 80, a 180, whatever. If you guys saw that match between Gerwyn Price and Gary Anderson. Wow. I mean, that was a fun match, a little bit of a seesaw there at one point, and then it just was a blowout kind of happening from Gerwyn. It was I like Gary Anderson had resigned to the fact that he had lost it. Really early on, in my opinion, it just felt like he had realized that Gerwyn wanted it more. Gerwyn came to play, and Gary just seemed to be content with number 2, which I think from a financial standpoint, he was. I think he had gone further in the tournament than he had kind of expected. And he even made that comment in one of the interviews that he really didn't expect to be in the finals. But it showed him that his game was good enough. And so we're going to see a lot more of him this next year, which for me is fun because I've always been a fan of his since he won those world championships. But that's when I really started to dive back into watching darts. Found that you could actually watch it, to be honest, other than YouTube stuff. Excuse me. I'm Scottish, part Scottish. I'm actually doing the 23andMe. My wife, for Christmas, we decided we're going to do this. And so I get to find out exactly how much, of my family is. But I know that my grandparents, I'm totally off topic. Isn't that awesome? My grandparents, my mom's parents literally came here from Germany, and last name was Deutsch, very German. And then my dad's side of the family, very Scottish and Irish. Harper is a Irish name, or comes from an Irish clan, the Harps, but we're Buchanans. And so these, I've done study on this. My grandparents did a bunch of genealogy study just because that was kind of their thing. They actually went over to Europe for a couple of years and doing this stuff, and it was just fun for them. So I'm curious to find exactly how much, but I've always said, hey, there's a lot of Scottish in me. I know I'm a Buchanan. And so for me, that's exciting to have. Anyway, that was kind of a draw for me to Gary. And I just liked Gary until the last couple of years where he kind of got bitchy, which was a huge turnoff for me. He talks about how, you just got to throw better than the next player. I'm playing the darts, blah, blah, blah. And then he gets into an interview and he cries about everything. And that kind of has been a turnoff. But I still love the guy, and I'm excited to see him play more this year. But then there's this guy, Gerwyn Price, that nobody really liked, but I always liked him because I love the fact that he came from a sport. I played football, that he came from a sport that was a rough tumble, you bloody type sport. And yet 6-7 years ago, he walked away from that kind of retirement into darts. I mean, that's a huge change. That's like someone saying, hey, I'm going to go from basketball to tennis. And be like, hey, no, I'm going to be a tennis player. I mean, just the dynamics. If you think about what Gerwyn Price has accomplished, the dynamics from going and playing rugby, which is a very physical sport, to a sport that doesn't have the physical aspect to it, really is a mental eye-hand coordination type of thing. I'm sure he's pretty good at video games. Dawson Michelle, good at video games, also good as a darts player, but that kind of goes hand in hand. But just to see that and watch him over the last couple of years come into the sport and just rapidly rise, and he is now world champion and world number 1. To get both of those titles in the same tournament, winning it, is something special. It's something exciting. I just, you don't really see that happen. And it's interesting because I was thinking about this and talking with a couple other guys, and then I got to get into Roy and his dress because we've got to hammer in on that real quick. Here is the order of merit. I wanted to run down this real quick with you guys, and then I'm going to talk about an interesting aspect when it comes to a match from a couple years ago, having a conversation with some guys. But right now, of course, Gerwyn Price, number 1 in the world on both the PDC and then the European. So there are basically 2 kind of orders of merits, and he's number 1 in both. Then we have Mvg Michael Van Gerwin, and this is kind of cool because I think this lights a fire under him for the next couple of years to get that back. Or We see the decline of MVG because he's always had that attitude of, hey, I'm okay with retiring. I'm okay with getting out of the sport. Yeah, I've got the family. This has never been his desire to be a Steve Beaton and be doing this, a Mervyn King type situation where he plays for many, many years. He's always said, you know what? I've got an exit plan. I came into this with an exit plan, which is always kind of a bad idea and yet a good idea. It's kind of weird. If you got a plan B, you typically fall into plan B. It's kind of how that goes. Then we got Peter Wright, who hopefully kind of hoping this little bit of fire under him to want to come after. And I know that getting the world champion ship last year, that was kind of his pinnacle for him. I was kind of hoping because he got a lot of that, the accolades taken from him, that he would have jumped up and said, you know what, I got to win this again this year because I think things are going to clear up and I'm going to be able to get what I should have gotten. But that didn't happen. But he struggled. He has struggled in the world championship over the last couple of years in round 2, which is his round 1, and round 3. We've seen him struggle. We've seen him go out basically his first round 2. We've seen him go out, early in this tournament. So, the fire I'm hoping to see be lit under him because I'm a huge Peter Wright fan as well. And then Rob Cross is number 4. And people are like, how's Rob Cross number 4? I mean, like, that guy goes out. He's won some of the majors that you need to get the big paydays. And because of that, that gives him the dollar amount he needs to be number 4. I want to talk a little bit about Rob Cross. And we're going to get into that too in a second. Number 5 is Nathan Aspinall. And I think Asp, who is very deserved to be in the top 10, even in 5th spot for sure. If not number 4, he has definitely been showing that he is a dartsman and can play the darts. And he's basically come into the world championship and with nothing in his pocket almost, and said, hey, I got to make this work. And he did. And we see over the past year, he's just crushed it and done really well. And then Chizzy, up to number 6. And of course, this tournament helped him with that. Of course, decent payday for him. And I like Dave Chisnell. Outside of, and again, it's an area of the world that they come from. They don't have deep voices, and you see this man walk up, and it's like, you're like, wow. But I like Chizzy. I think he's cool, great. Just 9 darting and crushing the bullseye, the double. He kills it on the 180s. So loving watching Chizzy. He's just a high scorer. And then James Wade, who is my closet-like favorite for every tournament. I love James Wade. I love his attitude, just his stowiness when he's up there playing at the Aki. He's pretty talkative off, kind of, sort of. Here's a guy that came into the sport, has done well. He's number 7. I mean, he stayed in the top for 20 plus years. Married a walk-on girl, if you remember what those are, and just kind of a stud in my mindset. He just plays the darts. I'd love to sit down and have dinner with him. I'm sure he's probably a pretty fun guy, just sitting around having a drink and some food. Then we have Gary Anderson, who's into the top 10. He's number 8. I think, again, this payday helped him out. I'm excited to see what he does this year. And Michael Smith, who went out in a pretty bad way, basically round 2. He just hasn't looked comfortable in this tournament. He hasn't looked comfortable all year to some degree. Now, he did win a couple of tournaments this year. And there were some areas where he looked like it was back, what we expect from Michael Smith. I think part of the issue is the pressure on him to win something. Hopefully he didn't hit anything and break another hand. That has happened in the past where he punched a wall that the wall won. But my son absolutely adores Michael Smith and just loves his play, loves his beard, and just thinks he's a great guy, and he plays his barrels. And so I'm hoping to see Michael Smith just roar into this next year. Hopefully he can take the right stuff from what has happened this past year for him and just charge forward. I fear that he's going to be this year. If it doesn't go well right off the bat, he's going to give up early, and that we could see Michael Smith walk away from this sport in the next year or two. if it doesn't go his way, so to speak. And then Dimitri Vandenberg, which I was going to do his dance as I came into the show today, but I didn't. Dimitri's going to get the knee surgery, and we're going to see how he comes back from that. But I'm excited about this young man. He's kind of fun to watch play. So those are your top 10. And then you get into the top 20, and there's a ton of great players in the next 10 that go down there. Really excited to see how that all plays out. Just give you a quick rundown. Number 11 is Daryl Gurney, Super Chin. Ian White just hanging around. Glenn Durant, who's ranked number 13, definitely wants to get into that top 3. I think he's at a point where if he could win a world championship or get a couple of majors under his belt, he may just retire. Christoph Rutowski, number 14. Here's another guy who just kind of came from nowhere and did really well this year. Jose de Sosa is in at number 15. Joe Cullen, number 16. I have high hopes for Joe Cullen to go really far in this sport. I don't know that he has high hopes to go too far, just looking at how he kind of handles himself when he's losing. Stephen Bunting has jumped up to number 17. This is a gentleman, of course, that was going to bail the sport. He's 35. I think I mentioned in my last show that he was 20-something. He is 35. And glad to see that he did well. He's an interesting player. So I'm glad to see him do well. And one thing that they kind of glossed over and kind of pissed me off, he is a Lakeside world champion. He has a star. He is a world champion. And don't take that away from him. You know, there were some comments that were made like that, like all the Lakeside world champions just didn't count, is kind of how it came across. And it's like, well, wait a second, you're changing the record books by saying that. Phil Taylor goes down to 14 titles because he got 2 of his world championships in the BDO. So you can't negate any of that. Bunting is a world champion, and good for him for doing well. Then Johnny Clayton, this is just his side gig, is in at number 18. Simon Whitlock, who did well this year, and I'm hoping to see him jump back into the top 10. I like Whitlock. And then Mervyn King is in at number 20. He just loves to hang around, in the top 20. And then we go down, and get into Adrian Lewis has dropped to number 24, which is kind of sad because I like Adrian. I'm hoping that he will, pull up his big boy pants this year and just come out and start playing darts like the way we know he can. All right. Angela Mills, good morning. Michael Ross, good morning. Sorry, guys, I'm getting back to reading comments. Get myself a little bit of coffee there. All right, so I want to talk just real quickly about a match that I want to say, I had been watching darts, but there was the World Championships a few years back, like 4 years ago now. Yeah. Rob Cross, Phil Taylor. Talking with some other people about MVG specifically and looking back to that year and that particular tournament, how that changed the scope of darts as we know it. Looking at that specific tournament and really the couple of matches right in there. This was Phil Taylor's swan song year. Phil had a great year. I think he was still ranked number 5 in the world at the time. And he said, look, I'm done. World Championships, I win or lose, I'm out. This is it for me. Which would have been interesting to see him win it because, one, it would have changed all the stuff that had been put out as the 16-time world champion. Like they had put out special boxes and darts. And it was crazy what they had done in that final year. No one expected him, of course, to be in the finals, which he made. So that would have been really interesting. It would have been interesting to see him win it and be like, I'm out, I'm retired, peace. I'm going to play in Japan for the next year and make some money and have fun. But that tournament, let's talk a little bit about that and how that has changed kind of the scope over the last couple of years. So MVG had at that point won 2 of the world titles. Okay, he's world number 1. Phil Taylor, who at that point had 16 world titles and has maintained that, but was by all means the greatest darts player ever from a tournament perspective. And the king of darts. Okay. He is the man when it comes to darts. He's the Michael Jordan, he's the Tom Brady, we could go to a number of different types of things. He's the GOAT. Okay. He is it. And we see this building in that particular tournament, and you get this semifinal between Rob Cross and MVG, where nobody thinks Cross, like everybody's like, who's Cross? Who's this guy? Like he doesn't even have a name. Like, who is this guy? And he's done well and he's gone far in this tournament, but nobody picked him to come close to beating MVG in that semifinal. And he pulled it off, which it was a pull off. If you go back and watch that, MVG should have had that. But Rob Cross just played phenomenal darts. He played like he didn't care, like there was no weight on his shoulders. MVG was like, hey, I need to beat you because I need to go beat the number one, the GOAT. And that's the handing of the torch. That's going to make me the next guy that everybody has to beat type of situation. And that didn't happen. If you go back to that tournament and you watch that, of course, Rob Cross got it, which powered the guy that just literally had just gotten into darts. And from a professional standpoint, at least the PDC. And here he is, world champion. I think in some regards, it saddened me because he wasn't ready for it. And we saw that over the last couple of years. And at the same time, it was a great story. I mean, it's amazing to think about this guy who literally was an electrician, not doing much, taking his side fun thing, darts, as I smack my mic, and turn it into becoming world champion and banking some cash and really becoming a professional darts player totally. And that's an incredibly exciting story. And he's done well since then. He's won some majors. And of course, he's still in the top 5. He's ranked number 4 in the world. So he's winning when he needs to get the right paychecks for sure. Unfortunately, he's losing almost all the other times, which is sad because he's a cool guy. From what I've seen of him, it's not like I hang out with him regularly, I'll call him after this, but I think that changed the dynamics of darts as we know it, because the torch was supposed to be handed to MVG at that tournament. That's what was supposed to happen, is it was supposed to go to him and he was going to run with that thing. And if you listen to the speech, the talking that was happening at that point in time, that was the idea, is that MVG was going to run and then he was going to win all these major championships and he was going to win the world title multiple times. And he was going to then retire, not beating Phil Taylor, because I don't think anybody's ever going to get to that point. That the sport has just grown way too much for anybody to beat a Phil Taylor as far as 16 world titles, 16 match play titles. That's just not, it's not going to happen. I'm going to tell you straight up, it's not going to happen except for maybe on a computer game. So we see that, and it's like, if you look at the last couple of years, and this was the conversation I was having, don't forget, we're going to talk about Roy. We are going to talk about you, buddy, and your dress that's coming up. But that, I looked back at that, and I've watched a couple of things and talking with people. It's amazing to see the differences, because of course MVG came back the next year and he won, and he kind of that next year was in a little bit of a pissy mood, and you saw him going, but he had the family started. He had other things, and I think that in itself crushed his spirit, whether he admits it or not. But I think him not getting the torch from Phil Taylor, if you go back and listen, it was all the commentators are like, oh, the torch has been passed to Rob Cross. Here's your new guy that's going to run with this for the next, millennia. And it was like, this dude's new. Let's give him a little bit of time. Don't hand him that torch. And I think that was a little bit more than Rob wanted to take on, because that's literally what happened. It was like, okay, you beat Phil Taylor. You're the dude. You're the guy. And I really, you look at the dynamics that have happened, and I think that was the downfall of MVG. And I know everybody's like, Matt, you get down on him. I love MVG. Oh my gosh, the guy's phenomenal. His fan base is incredible. He is lights out, one of the best darts players ever. Had he been around the era of the 70s and 80s of darts, him he would have been the Phil Taylor. He would have beaten Phil Taylor. Phil Taylor wouldn't have had those 16 world titles. I think the MVG that we knew, a few years ago would have just dominated like crazy. He would have taken out the Priestley's and the others. He had that. I think that tournament just crushed him. That loss to Rob Cross and not getting the torch. If you look, he's been dominant, but not so dominant over the last couple of years, and especially the last 2 years. He came back and he won the title, and that was like, yeah, I got the title back. I'm it. And then he lost out to Peter Wright, but I think just all of last year and the year prior to that, he just kind of, I really think that was the downfall of MVG, was not getting the torch. And again, I love the guy. I think he's, dude, if I had to pick a team, that guy's on my team for sure. But I'm putting it out here now. I think we've kind of seen, I think MVG is just going to hang around. He may get one more world title, but I don't think so. And I think that's where we look back and we see it. And I think there's too much talent coming in now that has a desire for that title. They're seeing people like Peter Wright come in and win that title. They're seeing people like Gerwyn Price come in and win the title and take the number one spot. And I may be wrong. It's happened plenty of times, but that's my take on that. And that was a conversation I was having with a couple of guys just in darts. We were talking about MVG and what happened and why. And, how did Chizzy, who hadn't beaten him in like once in 27 times, basically walk away with that? And I think a lot of it comes to that. And if you remember, where was that? I mean, that was in the area of the tournament where Gerwyn has had faulty issues. So anyway, MVG, shouldn't say Gerwyn. Love Dart says, I disagree. Taylor would have worked harder. He wasn't ever pushed. Yes, Taylor by far was the hardest working darts player ever, bar none. But I think MVG is a pure player. And what I mean by that is, in my opinion, MVG can turn it up just one more notch higher. I think Phil Taylor, for the era that he played in, and his just God-given ability to put a dart wherever he wanted to, and it's not just God-given ability. I don't want to take away from his practice, his desire to win. I still think MVG in that era, in that ability, would have smelt blood and just gone for it. That's one thing about MVG, man. You start bleeding a little and he's coming for you. Phil definitely has that in him for sure. But at the same time, I think Phil, there's a nice guy side to Phil that shows a lot when he gets to the Aki. He is cutthroat and he will do things. You think Gerwyn, his yell is an issue? Let me tell you, if you go back and watch Taylor's stuff, Taylor would do anything and everything to get in your head. Slow play for sure. Fast play for sure. The guy he is a god of sorts when it comes to darts. I just think during that era, MVG would have, Phil Taylor would have shown a little bit of blood at one point, and MVG would have come for it. That's just my opinion. Okay. We can certainly debate these things forever. Taylor's for sure the GOAT. Huge fan. His jersey hangs right there, signed. I'm a huge Phil. I am saddened that Phil Taylor's still not playing so that I can enjoy watching him more. It is, and I'd like to see him play Martel some more. Those are always the fun matches. Okay, so let's talk about my boy Roy. Thank you, Roy. You're not watching this show, but you're probably working. But I want to thank Roy from Bullseyes and Brewskis coming on last minute to talk about the World Championships. So I want to thank him for doing that. Thank you very much, Roy, for coming on and spending the time to do that, and then getting suckered into a bet, which you started, by the way, in regards to the Gerwyn Price and Daryl Gurney match. You kind of started this whole thing. You wanted me to do dancing Dimitri dance as a walk-in, and I kind of, I'll do that little. I can't spin around because I have this tucked in, but I give you a little of that. But you started it, and then it turned into hey, you were certain that Super Chin was going to win, and so the bet progressed into the fact of wearing a dress, makeup, the whole shebang. Like, I want to see your panties, buddy. They better be feminine. And so it turned into that. And I will, admittedly, my heart stopped a couple of times in that match against Gerwyn Price and Daryl Gurney, because Daryl certainly could have won that. It did go all the way. So, but unfortunately for you, unfortunately for me, Roy will be wearing a dress this Saturday. If you have not caught Bullseyes and Brewskis, their little live show, they do a grand board and they play subs and people that want to come on and play. It's fun. It's a Saturday evening. It's a blast of a show. They do like well over an hour, and they just play darts and talk darts and have a good time. Go check it out this week, because Roy should be in a dress for sure. And I wish he was on. I'd love to chat with him a little bit about that, but Roy will be wearing a dress in full regalia this Saturday at Bullseyes and Brewskis. So if you're not a subscriber, run over there right now. Bullseyes, Brewskis, you should be able to figure that one out. See, they drink beer on theirs because it's a nighttime show. I'm a morning time show, and we drink coffee. All right. So the other thing that Bullseyes and Brewskis is doing, because I just looked at the time, I got to land this plane here. I got to drive to San Diego, which is about 20 miles away. They have a tournament. It's a grand board tournament. It's free. It's this Friday. I have been asked why I'm not signed up for it. It's because I may be home by 4:30, it'll be 4:30 my time. It's 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 my time Pacific. I don't know that I'll be home because I have an inspection I'm doing that afternoon, and I don't know that I'll be home in time for the 4:30 start of that tournament. That's why I have not signed up, but there are 20 spots available, or there were 20 spots when they started this. I don't know how many are left. It is free. Go over to Bullseyes and Brewskis. You can win a $15 gift card, and then I'm giving away, or one of the giveaways is a set of the Atomic Darts barrels. They are 21 gram steel tip barrel. Soft tips. This is some of the other stuff I want to talk about. Soft tips are being ordered this month. So we'll be getting the soft tip barrels in, and then I'm going to try and get 2 more weights in the steel tip for those that have asked. And these are limited runs, limited edition. So if you want to get them, I got to get some better photos. I've had a million people tell me, dude, get better photos on the website. I've got to do that and market this a little bit more. But get yourself a set. They are going quickly. Everybody I know that has played with them, Niels, Michael Holdman, and others, have enjoyed playing the barrel and been crushing the 180s. So, guys, thank you so much for checking the show out today. I've got to cut it and run here, but I want to thank my sponsors. Of course, Shot Darts, Magicwear, for their jerseys. Man, you need jerseys, go to Magicwear, check them out. They got good stuff. And of course, Trinidad Condor, they have come on board. They are sponsoring the show. I want to talk a little bit about sponsorship in the next couple of weeks. But next week, we are certainly going to be talking about social media stuff. And I want to get into talking a little bit about sponsorship, because there's some misunderstandings about how sponsorship certainly works, especially when it comes to a show, versus, and I'll touch briefly on it here real quick before I bail out. Good morning, Tanner. Just real quick, there's been this misconception that because, like with my show, I work with Magicwear. Magicwear is owned by a supplier of darts, but I don't work with the A to Z side. I work with Magicwear. That's where my contract is with Magicwear, my sponsorships with Magicwear. So there have been some discussions with myself and others where I'm trying to support others by throwing my logo up and paying them some money to have my logo up. And they're like, well, we work with another supplier of darts, and because you're working with Magicwear, that's a problem. Well, in reality, the reason it was set up that way is it shouldn't be a problem. And I know I'm touching on this because I want to get more into it in the next week or two, because as you guys go get sponsorships, whether you're a show or a player, understanding how these small pieces work. The reason A to Z doesn't sponsor me, and the reason Shot doesn't sponsor my reviews, or no one sponsors my reviews. No one will ever sponsor reviews. You can send me product and I'll review it and say, hey, this product was sent by, but no one's ever going to sponsor those specifically, because that has to be a free zone. Unless it was like Nike wanted to come and say, hey, we're going to sponsor, even though we don't do darts. I'll be like, sure, give me your money. I'm good with that. But like no manufacturer is going to, type of thing. And the reason this show has certain sponsors the way they do is because I don't review stuff. So Shot could sponsor me. And as far as it matters, Trinidad Condor, even though it's based on the Condor flights, sponsor me. Like if Target came in and said, hey, Matt, we want to sponsor your show as well, that's fine. Two manufacturers. This is I'm talking here. I'm not reviewing something. So multiple people could sponsor this. And the reason that A to Z in itself doesn't necessarily sponsor the show, it's Magicwear that does, is so that there's no crossover in regards to that. That has kind of been a little bit of an issue where my logo was out on some other shows. And they were like, well, we're sponsored by this this distributor, so we really can't work with you. And the truth is, yes, you can, because I'm not working with A to Z. I'm working with a product within their mix to sponsor the show. Now, whether you want to say because you might be sponsored by another shirt manufacturer, it shouldn't really matter. But those are things that we can talk about more. Sorry, I kind of rushed into that. Hey, Osti. Definitely want to talk with you some more. Could use some of your help because Osti does help out a couple of the YouTubers in the world. All right, guys, I got to run. It is 7:58. Thank you so much for watching. Got to land this plane. Next week, we're going to get into some more cool stuff. I'm going to get back to doing 2 shows a week as well with interviews and then cool stuff like this. Look for some coffee hitting the deal. We got a book coming out this year. We got more darts coming out this year. We're going to clean up the website. So lots of fun stuff happening in 2021. Thanks for watching. You guys have any questions, make sure that you shoot them. I'll do my best to answer them. Oh, most important thing I wanted to bring up. I got asked about this because I reviewed this a while ago. And in doing the review, I said I was going to do the practice plan. Shoot, I wanted to talk about this at the beginning of the show. Okay, hopefully you guys are still watching. But I talked about doing this plan, and I started doing it, and then kids. So I'm going back to this. I'm starting next week. I'm going to do this plan completely throughout. I think it's a 12-week plan. Let me double check here. It's an 8-week plan. You do it every single day. There's a session for every single day. It's an 8-week plan. I had a couple of people ask me how this worked. I never finished it. I never really got it started right. So I'm starting next week on Monday. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go onto Facebook, and maybe here, I don't know, maybe I'll use this. And I'm going to just film my week. And then I'll post a video on the next Monday about the week, or on the weekend about how that week went. And we'll take a look at it. So look for that. I'm going to start it. So next Monday, I'm going to start. So I'll do a little thing on Monday saying, hey, I'm starting this, blah, blah, blah. We'll get into it. And then I'm going to work through the 8 weeks, and I'll do a video every week so that you guys see the progress. Make sure you're busting my nuts about this. But you guys have asked about it, and I want to make sure that I'm providing that for you. All right, guys. Thank you all for hanging on to the show this long. Love you guys. Thanks. Don't forget to help out all the suppliers out there. But, of course, Shot Darts, Magicwear for your jerseys, and Trinidad Condor for your flights and shafts. Those things are awesome. The Axes, loving them. All right, guys. Thank you so much, and I'll be seeing you around. Have a wonderful day. See ya. As I forget to click on my little thanks for watching banner. All right. See you guys.